and welcome back to The Courage to Be Seen, real conversations with leaders about personal branding. Today, I'm excited to be joined by David Graham. He's a TEDx speaker, an executive coach, and the founder of Edge 3. Welcome, Dave.
Hi, Lisa. It's good to see you in person again.
You too. It's so good to see you. So obviously, TEDx speaker, you're the founder of Edge 3, executive coach. You've been doing lots of awesome stuff. But for those of you that don't know you, can you give me a little bit more background on, what is Edge 3? What is it that you do kind of day to day?
Sure. When I think of Edge 3, I think of leadership and team development. So we work with really great leaders, usually purpose-driven leaders, and their executive teams to try to make them really function at their best. That comes down to usually communication and building trust with one another. Sometimes we dive into strategic planning. It's kind of whatever the team needs in order to be at their best. One of the things we do a little differently than most coaching organizations is we take leaders and teams out of the boardroom and into nature. That's kind of a sweet spot.
Love that. Love that. And I've actually been to a couple of your retreats as well. So I can attest to just the benefit of actually being in nature and also just being around you, who's been coaching for quite a while.
Yeah, when I think of the value of being in nature too, it's about leading with clarity. And there's been some incredible research done on a leader's mental clarity when they're in nature. So it's kind of the perfect place to prime people for those difficult challenges and insights.
Yeah, it's interesting. So after I went to your retreat and we talked about the clarity in nature, I've always walked a lot, but I actually started kind of walking more with purpose. And I remember you sharing that if you think of like a challenge or something that you're trying to solve, and then you just walk out for your walk, things will come to you. And so because we're talking about personal branding, I'll give this one example. But sometimes when I'm out for my walk, it is honestly the time that I have the best topics and ideas that go through my mind about personal branding. And so I've started to actually either like voice record or I'll use the notes app on my phone and capture whatever it is that I'm thinking about. But I started that practice after I went to your retreat.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I mean, we know that our prefrontal cortex, our executive brain, part of our brain that's responsible for decision making and coming up with new insights, that part of our brain gets very, very busy. And I like to think of it as a traffic jam in our prefrontal cortex. But they found that when we are spending time in nature or even moving outside, we don't have to be in a forest. We can be outside in the city. Nature's all around us. That part of our brain gets very quiet. And, I love that you've also added, you're priming your brain with a really great question or a challenge. And my suggestion beyond that is, have the challenge, have the question in your mind, and then go for a walk and just let it go. Our brain continues to process in the background. And then magically you'll come back from the end of a walk or even during your walk and you'll go, oh, I get it. Now I know what I'm going to do next.
So obviously you're a lot more visible now, Dave. I see you posting on LinkedIn and on social, and you're speaking quite a bit. I mean, obviously you did your awesome TEDx talk. But was there ever a time when you hesitated to be visible? And if so, why? What was the reason?
That's a big yes. I would say I thought I was putting out a newsletter. I was trying to be really humble in everything I was posting, and I got seriously stuck. And I thought when I was investing all this time and energy in doing a TED Talk, I thought I need to stop being a secret. If I'm really committed to putting it out there, I need to commit to it. And I would say the biggest thing that got in my way was not wanting to toot my own horn. As a coach, we want to make sure that we're in service of our clients. And I thought that a big part of that was removing my ego and not putting myself out there. But then I started realizing it's really the way you put yourself out there. And I got to say, you've given me all kinds of advice on this, but it's putting things out there that are genuinely a value add for people. Great information that you think will be helpful for people in your network.
But that for me has been the big reframe in working with leaders and even for myself. When people start to hesitate and they think like this is going to seem like I'm bragging or that I'm being too self-promotional, is to think about it as leadership and service to others and sharing something that you've learned, so that maybe someone doesn't have to learn it the hard way. And so I think that's a really great way, to move beyond that hesitation around I'm going to look like I'm, bragging or that I'm too self-promotional. So how did you start then? Like, if you can think back to that moment, was it just looking at your content? Was it not maybe focusing so much on worrying about what people were thinking, or what was it that what was your kind of first piece that gave you momentum to keep going?
I remember a conversation with you, actually. We got talking about putting it out there, and I said to you, I don't want to be too salesy, because everyone knows if you're a coach and you're putting out content, you're trying to build your business. And you specifically said you don't have to ask for the business at the end of every post. Like, if you want to work with a great coach, give me a call. I don't do that at all anymore. I just share really great content. And I think the other thing that I started thinking about was what really lights me up. When I get excited to share something, how is it actually valuable, first of all, and then how is it connected to my business?
I love that. Was there something, I think you alluded to the TEDx talk, but was there something about your business or just about something in your life that made you want to be more visible? Like, was there a moment where you started to think, I need to be more intentional?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was the wanting to be on stage again. Mm-hmm. I was an actor when I started my career, and then I was a cruise director for like 8.5 years. So I loved being on stage, and then I started realizing that I missed it. I missed being on stage. I missed doing speaking engagements. I missed it hosting shows. And I thought, okay, how do I tie being on stage with what I'm doing professionally? And I went back to school to do a master's degree specifically on the neuroscience of coaching and being in nature. So I wanted to share that information. I was incredibly compelled by what I was learning, and I really wanted to share it. So I think that is key, understanding what it is that you're passionate about, that you've got some expertise in, and that you really want to share with other people.
I love that. Actually, you know what I really love what you just said is the fact that you've had previous careers. You've had a number of them, all very fun. I work sometimes with people that are looking to pivot industries or roles or whole different areas of work. And it seems to me like people start to think that they have to kind of give up their past, or that they're always going to be known for what they did in the past, as opposed to evolving it and evolving their brand. And it sounds to me like you've really taken that and learned, and intentionally kind of evolved your brand for each kind of stage of your career.
Yeah, I like you said, I love that you said that, because I, for the longest time, didn't want to acknowledge the other part of my career. If I was going to be taken seriously as a coach, I didn't want to talk about being an actor or a cruise director. But then what I started noticing is people were actually compelled by that. They found it interesting, and they found that my background didn't take away from what I was doing. It just added to what I was doing. So I think that you're right. I think personal branding is, how do you kind of continue to evolve your brand without feeling like you need to step away or start again from scratch?
I'm interested to see, so once you started becoming intentional, and you have been doing a lot more, posting and speaking lately, what kind of impact are you seeing from that?
It's gradual. It's not an overnight thing. I don't think you magically wake up and say, oh my gosh, it's working. But I have noticed that maybe people are taking me a little bit more seriously as a speaker, because I talk about that a lot. The fact that I'm sharing research, I think, has made, I want to say it's maybe elevated my credibility. I think I'm getting different offers now than I was before. I'm getting a lot more offers to teach and to do speaking gigs and to provide education along with interactivity. So it's not changing professions. It's just, I want to say, it's elevated me a little bit. Is
there anything that's maybe unintended or surprise outcome from being more visible?
I'm always surprised when I'm talking to somebody at a party, or I'm on a call and someone refers to something I've posted. That always really delights me, because you kind of forget about it, you move on. And then every now and then someone will say something, when I read that post, or when I saw that video that you put out. And then I find that really exciting, because you think of the ripple effect. You dropped a piece of information and someone said, I actually used what you said and it worked. Or I was talking to somebody and I shared that information. It's just really nice to see that, the ripple effect of the words that you share. how you share it. So it makes me wonder, you have to be really intentional and be really careful because people do pay attention.
Well, you know what else it reminds me of when I say this is that I'll go to a dinner party like you and someone will say, oh my gosh, I see all the things you're doing this and that. And I loved your post. And in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, but you didn't like it or make a comment. So for people that get really hung up on the number of likes and the number of comments, it has become so clear to me that can't just be the indicator of success, because so many people actually do see what you're doing and it does impact them and it leaves a mark, but they may not actually click the like or they may not add a comment, but it actually honestly is having impact. Yeah.
There's no denying that it's nice to get that little dopamine kick when you see that you got a whole bunch of likes or someone commented, but you also have to realize that you never really quite know what's going to resonate and with whom.
To your point, do you look at your analytics, say on social, for example, and look at it like learning? Like for me, I look at it when something doesn't resonate or I don't think it is. Sometimes I'll look at the analytics and think, well, was it the time that I posted? Is it the kind of content? Or maybe it just actually resonated with a few and that's all that mattered because it resulted in a speaking up or, a new client or something.
I really wish that I said that I looked at analytics, but I don't. Beyond the likes and the comments, not so much. But I do think that there's some really great learning there. So I don't know, maybe that's the next part of my evolution is to learn that more.
Yeah.
To understand what's resonant. However, what I have noticed is that when I post something that's personal, or there's a vulnerable story, or there's an interesting thing that happened to me, and I share that I find I get a lot more traction than if I'm just pushing out content.
Yeah, I have too, for sure. I think that's absolutely correct. When you started being more visible, or maybe even just recently, is there a mistake that you've made that you can think of?
I can remember the mistake I made before you and I had a conversation about branding. And the mistake that I was making is I was just putting stuff out there. I see something, I liked it, I pushed it out. And one of the big things that I learned from you that's been really helpful is you said, choose 3 things that you're going to post about. Choose 3 topics or 3 areas of expertise that you're going to share based on what the objective is of your business. So I got really specific around, leading with clarity, finding clarity in nature, compassionate leadership, and cohesive teams. And it's always in the back of my mind when I post something, how is it connected to those 3 things or one of those things? And if it is, how do I make sure that I bring that to the forefront so that it's actually not only something I want to share, but intentional in terms of the business that I want to build? The connection.
Yeah, I love that. So brand pillars, I think that one of the mistakes that people, and again, this is for people that want to be thought leaders. Obviously, I'm not speaking about people that want to go on and become like a YouTube influencer, but someone that wants to become a thought leader in their space, I do think it's best to pick 3, maybe 4 pillars and get really intentional about what you want to be known for. And I think that kind of can lead to the types of opportunities that you want, right? Connected into those brand pillars. So we're almost at time. I'm wondering if there's one piece of advice maybe that you would give somebody who is still feeling that hesitation about, working on their personal brand and becoming more visible. Is there some piece of advice that you would give them?
The biggest piece of advice I would share is have fun with it. I took it too seriously for a while. And the way my process in terms of how I post now is I journal on things that I'm really interested in. So I just keep journaling. I just pick up my pen, I'm making dinner or out for a hike. I write down whatever came to my mind. And then later on, I've got something to go back to. And either I take that journal article and I rewrite it or run it through AI to refine it and then just get it out. I think that we sit on things for way too long. So journal it, push it through AI to make sure that you're cleaning it up a bit and then get it out.
So you use AI. I love that. And I think it can, make things so much easier, faster, better. How do you make sure that you still stay authentic to you? How do you use AI in an authentic way?
That's a great question. The first thing is I journal first. I don't put the idea through AI first. I journal it and really get clear on my thoughts. If we're going to be a thought leader, I think we need to make sure there are thoughts. And then AI is used just to refine it and clean it up. And what I've really noticed is if it comes through and I read it over and it doesn't sound like my voice, I'll go back to AI and say, go back to what I originally shared with you and make it more in my voice, or use my words as opposed to changing the tone. And I find that if I'm really, really prescriptive that way, it will clean it up and it will sound more like me. And the more I use AI, the more it sounds like me.
Yeah, you're like testing the model to sound like you. Well, I see your posts and I know obviously you, and I know how you speak. And I think you've done a really great job of using it in an authentic way.
Oh. Well, thanks for that. That means a lot because it's been a real work in progress over the last year for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all your thoughts. It's been fantastic having you on The Courage to Be Seen. And I look forward to seeing you on stage or maybe out in nature really soon.
Yes, for sure. Thanks, Lisa.